So you wanna be the king of games, but your matches all end the same. I've got just what you need. Feel free to SMD. Hey everybody, Joseph Rothschild here, aka MBT, back with another episode of SMD, the quick and dirty way for filthy netdeckers to no-skill their way to the top of the Master Duel ladder. Today we're sinking deeper into the pit of the Synchro Festival with Flower Cardian. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Looking for a place that anyone can upload Master Duel decks and get feedback from the community? Want to give opening Master Packs a try without spending real money? Want to know the gem cost of a deck before you start building? Then check out www.ygoprodeck.com. Now let's crack into Cardian. Flower Cardian is a deck designed to make you play a completely different game inside a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Someone saw that video where they made a working computer in an EDH game and thought to themselves, what if this was a necessary part of playing an archetype? These monsters are legitimately incomprehensible, but give me a shot at comprehensilizing them for you. The Cardians can be sorted into 3 categories: free summons, provided you already control a lower level Cardian, tribute specials that draw a card on summon, and a third category of monsters that just do whatever they feel like. This facilitates a combo deck that summons about 30 monsters in one turn. Now, time for the awkward part. To what end are you summoning all these monsters? Well, that's a little rough. Some of these cards have Flower Cardian locks, and their tuners all count themselves and all their materials as level 2 monsters, so your options are pretty limited. There's an FTK with D-Synchro and Moonflower viewing, but I'm not interested in winning on turn 1. I prefer turn 2. Other than that, Flower Cardian Light Flare is a 5-material synchro that negates a spell trap and has the highest attack of any monster in the game, and Flower Cardian Light Shower is a 3,000 attack point monster that protects your Cardians and burns your opponent for 1,500 during their draw phase. That's it. On the way to these monsters, you can also often trigger Board Fly, which is a graveyard lock. You might be realizing why this deck sucks. So with that, let's get into the card by card. Now, I feel I should mention, with the exception of the extra deck monsters and exactly Super Koi Koi, every card in this list is a normal or a rare. This makes the deck exceptionally cheap, but I wouldn't recommend it. We're playing 3 copies of Flower Cardian Pine. When this card's normal, you can draw a card, then send it to the graveyard unless it's a Flower Cardian. Importantly, this is one of the very few Flower Cardians you can normal summon, and it's got the lowest level of any of them. After that, we've got 3 copies of Flower Cardian Cherry Blossom with Curtain. This can only be specialed by its own effect. You can reveal it in your hand, draw a card, and then if it's a Flower Cardian, you get to special summon this one. Cherry Blossom without Curtain is next. If you control a level 2 or lower Flower Cardian, you can special summon this from your hand, and you contribute a Flower Cardian monster to draw a card. Then if it's a Flower Cardian that you draw off the top, you can add a Flower Cardian from your deck to your hand or special summon one, ignoring its summoning conditions. Peony with Butterfly is banned in remote duels because you contribute a monster to summon it, draw a card, and if it's a Flower Cardian, you can look at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck and rearrange them in any order you please. This means they will be bricking just a little bit after your setup turn, but because you have to manipulate the top of your opponent's deck, you can't play it in remotes. After that is Clover with Boar, same deal as Peony with Butterfly, but is unfortunately not a tuner. It, on successful summon and draw of a Flower Cardian, allows you to destroy a monster your opponent controls. Otherwise, that card you drew is going directly into the graveyard. Zebra Grass is Magical Mallet once it's summoned. It's a free special, provided you have a level 7 or lower Flower Cardian monster. Willow makes the deck tick. If you have a 10 or lower, you can special summon this card from your hand, and you can target a monster in your graveyard, shuffle it back into your deck, and draw a card. Willow targeting Willow into Willow targeting Willow into Willow targeting Willow is the name of the game. Speaking of Willow, it's necessary for Willow with Calligrapher, the second tuner in this deck. This can only be special summoned by tributing exactly a level 11 Flower Cardian, of which Willow is the only one. If it's special summoned, you can draw a card, and if you do, you show it, then special summon it if it's a Flower Cardian monster. The only thing that really matters with this card is you can use it to synchro. And finally, Flower Cardian Polonia. This is a free special provided you have any Flower Cardians on your side of the field, because it's such a high level, and hilariously is also a battle fader if it is targeted for an attack. We've got 1 copy of Reinforcement of the Army, 3 copies of Flower Gathering. This summons 4 Flower Cardians with 100 attack and different names from your deck in attack position. That's anything but the ones that require tributes or the tuners. This can be fantastic for setup and is necessary to pretty much do any explosive play. 3 copies of Flower Stacking allows you to put Flower Cardians on top top of your deck. This is really, really good for Super Koi Koi, which can excavate the top 3 cards of your deck and special the Flower Cardians you see there, turning them into level 2s in the process, but it's also good for setting up Moonflower Viewing, which allows you to draw a card. Stacking can also be banished from the graveyard to add a Flower Cardian from your graveyard back to your hand any turn but the turn that it's sent. Finally, we've got 3 Recardination. This allows you to target a Flower Cardian in your graveyard, add it to your hand, then special summon a Flower Cardian from your hand, ignoring its summoning conditions. Importantly, this one, if it's sent by a Flower Cardian monster's effect, allows you to excavate the top 5 cards of your deck, and if you do, add a spell trap excavated there from your deck to your hand. It's a fantastic way to kind of recoup the loss from hitting a spell rather than a Flower Cardian. In the extra, we've got 2 Boardfly, which is a graveyard lock, 2 Moonflower Viewing, which features in some desynchro FTKs, but is kind of mid in the deck proper, 3 copies of Flower Cardian Light Shower. Realistically, you could get away with 2 because you're never making more than 2 copies of this card, and 1 copy of Flower Cardian Light Flare. The rest is literally filler. I happen to have Stardust Dragon, Majestic Star Dragon, and Majestic Red Dragon, so that's what I put in there. So with that, let's check out a game. So first off, let me show you this deck's usual win con. We've opened okay, we have a copy of Flower Cardian Pine, which is exactly where we want to be. We're going to go ahead and normal summon that copy of Flower Cardian Pine, attempting to get a Flower Cardian off the top of our deck. Unfortunately, we see Super Koi Koi, but it doesn't matter because our opponent concedes once they figure out what we're doing. Honestly, it's pretty funny that people scoop within 2 seconds of seeing a Flower Cardian a lot of the time, because if they stuck around, they'd find out the deck is not very good. This is a match that I played during the Synchro Festival, and as you can see, we've opened pretty poorly. We have Flower Cardians, but Super Koi Koi is our only way of getting a low level 1 onto our side of the field. Thankfully, this Koi Koi does find a level 3 Flower Cardian, so we'll summon it and a Willow, whiffing a copy of Flower Gathering that we would have needed later. We'll go for a copy of Clover with Boar here, and we draw a Zebra Grass. No big deal, happy to be drawing anything that's a Flower Cardian. We'll go for Willow, we'll trigger the effect of the Willow to shuffle back the Cherry Blossom with Curtain, and we'll draw off the top of our deck a Reinforcement of the Army. The Rhoda is going to find us a Cherry Blossom because we definitely need a tuner if we want anything to happen here. We'll special the Cherry Blossom, then trigger the effect, and thank goodness we hit a Flower Cardian. That allows us to add Willow with Calligrapher from our deck to our hand. We'll tribute the Willow for the Willow with Calligrapher and trigger the effect, finding a second Flower Gathering. You've got to be kidding me. No big deal, we have the material on field to make something happen. So now that we know we can make at least 1 Synchro monster, I kind of want to go a little farther. This Zebra Grass can shuffle all 3 of these back to draw 3 cards, and cool, Flower Stacking is a great pickup. Unfortunately, our Pine hits the 3rd Flower Gathering, and we are now ruined from activating that. Because we've got the stacking, I'm going to go for a Synchro Summon here. We're going to make Moonflower Viewing, then fire off Flower Stacking to guarantee that we hit it. We'll stack 3 cards on the top of our deck in sequence, and then fire off this copy of Moonflower Viewing so we can draw a card. We'll draw off the top of our deck a copy of Cherry Blossom with Curtain, which we can then activate, guaranteeing a summon because we stacked a Cherry Blossom under it. We'll go for the Cherry Blossom afterwards, then trigger the effect, drawing the Willow off the top of our deck, and then adding from our deck to our hand another copy of Willow with Calligrapher. From here, we can special the Willow, and we can trigger the effect of the Willow in order to shuffle a card from our graveyard back into our deck, picking a Willow for a Willow, and grabbing the 3rd Super Koi Koi. You've got to be kidding me. All these spells, and they're all the same one that has a hard once per turn on it. We go from Willow with Calligrapher into a drawn copy of Peony with Butterfly. I figure we might as well, just because I want more draws, and thankfully, we do find a Polonia, which means we are able to go into a copy of Light Flare. So this is 1 Spell Trap Negate and nothing else. Let's see if our opponent can crack this. Now, we have stacked the worst possible card to the top of their deck with the Peony with Butterfly. They're going to go for a Foolish Burial. They send a copy of Stardust to the graveyard, then afterwards they'll fire off a Reborn. I figure they need non-tuner material in order to make a Synchro, so I'll go ahead and negate that with Light Flare, and that turns out to be the absolute right decision, because afterwards they're just going to go ahead and scoop it up. So we're back with the list, and honestly, I don't think I can recommend this one to you. You're going to win like 90% of your games because your opponent just got tired and left. On second thought, maybe I can recommend this to you.